Today we're building our first ever Redux rendering rig in the Hizaya Corepro, a case that up until now has only been available to buy via Hizaya's Indiegogo campaign and aims to make a lot of GPUs less of a pain. We decided to take the plunge and here's what we found. Today's video is brought to you by ASUS. Our build today features two of their Tough Gaming 4090s, some of the best and most silenced cards out there today, due to their military-grade components and huge heatsink with actual tech fans. We use them in our Supernova systems and trust me, they're great. Let's get these two things out of the way. So first you may ask yourself, where the hell does this YouTube channel even come from? Well, as some of you may know, we are a Dutch YouTube channel and system integrator, and we've decided to go global. We're going global! Global! We're going global! Second, we are aware that there already is a system integrator called Build Redux, but let me tell you a little secret. We were first. So you can imagine we were very surprised when our name started showing up everywhere, even in LTT videos. Though technically we're called Redux Gaming, but whatever. The Hizaya Corepro. Hizaya is a French startup company that aims to create the perfect case for 3D artists.
Hey, yo!
But of course this means that it's suitable for anyone who wants a lot of GPUs in their system. And that is what this case is all about. It's got a dual chamber design, although not like we're used to in the gaming industry. Instead of having one chamber for all the uglies like the PSU, hard drives and SSDs and cables, and one chamber for everything pretty, this case has one chamber for a motherboard, a 360mm water cooler and drives, and one chamber for up to 6 graphics card with some room for breathing and up to 2 PSUs. Although we kinda messed up on that part today, you'll see why. That's enough information for now, let's build. Pretty nice build without many hiccups, except for the fact that we made 2 mistakes while planning. Both have to do with the size of the case. You see, it looks huge on pictures, and we sure thought it would be huge considering all the GPUs it can hold, but it's actually not that big at all. And that is where we effed up. We planned on using an ASUS Sage board, but luckily Patrice from Hizaya pointed out in time that that wouldn't fit. Also the PSUs. While picking parts, we went all out on everything, including the PSUs. Two Seasonic TX1600s would mean that we would have two titanium label PSUs and no need for 12-volt high power cable adapters, since combined they have 4 12-volt high power cables, and the customer only plans on adding two 4090s in the future. Awesome, right? If it would have fit. Also, the pass-through for the power cable to the second PSU is the wrong connector. When the customer wants to add the two extra GPUs, we'll have to find a smaller PSU with the right connector, but we'll manage. About the case, it's actually a pretty neat product, especially for the literal first batch. The design looks great, and as mentioned, it's not too big or heavy. The build quality is good. Patrice had everything made in France and even assembled every case himself. The feet are machined aluminum and are compatible with a wide range of wheels that you can put under it, not included though. Of course, it not being mass produced adds to the cost, and we paid just under 600 euros for it. A lot of money for a case, but it was worth the experience for us so far, and of course the price can drop if it's ever to be mass produced. If the price doesn't drop, we would not consider it a very good deal in this state. It's just a lot of metal, and the only things that are not are the PSU pass-through part, the power button, the extremely bare bones I/O of just a USB-C port, 6 cheap feeling fans, and some mesh here and there. Of course, upgrading these things and keeping the price the same is also an option, but we would prefer just have it be cheaper and don't include any fans. We'll come to that later. We finished the build this morning, and we only had today to test and write this script, since the customer is coming to pick this up tomorrow at 10 AM. Of course, I loaded up some tests, the most interesting of course being stress tests. The parts we've used today have been around for quite some time, so benchmarking those would be a little redundant. Although of course I ran a GPU and CPU benchmark just to see if everything is working as it should be. And it was. The Threadripper scored a healthy 42,000 points, and in a quick Octane bench run we scored just over 2,600 points. All good there. Then for stress testing. For this we used OCCT to really push the CPU and GPUs to their limits and see whether the Hizaya Corepro can keep up with all that heat. The Threadripper 5965WX and double 4090s make for a crazy 1200 watts of power under full load, and all that energy has to go somewhere. Well, let's put it this way, it's alright, but it could have been so much better. I'll get to that in a bit. Let me just change the view for you guys. In the power stress test, meant to draw as much power and thus produce as much heat as possible across the CPU and the two GPUs, the temperatures on the Threadripper rose to 80.5 degrees Celsius. Mind that in our shop, it's only around 16 degrees Celsius, it's very cold here right now, and this is with motherboard fan settings on silent. The cards were doing just fine, and of course the top one is the hottest at 75 degrees, while the bottom card sat at 68 degrees. Curious as we are, we turned the fans on the radiator around to make them exhaust air instead of pulling it in. And here we bump into another problem with this case. Because the two compartments aren't very well isolated from each other, hot air can move from the GPU side to the motherboard side and vice versa. And that is exactly what happens. Turning the fans around resulted in lower GPU temperatures of almost 73 degrees for the top card and 66 for the bottom card. Not only resulting in lower temperatures, but also lower noise levels, as the fans went from turning at around 2000 RPM to 1700. All this is of course due to the fans on the CPU cooler now aiding in exhausting hot air from the GPUs out of the case. But it comes at a cost. More hot air through the radiator and thus higher CPU temperatures, rising to 87 degrees. This got us thinking which option was best. Of course, it's a GPU rendering rig and those temperatures should be prioritized. But the temps were fine on intake as well, and that really made a difference for the CPU. We decided to go with intake for now and retest it when the customer comes back for an upgrade to 4 GPUs. Alright, let's wrap things up. It has been fun to be one of the first to try out a new case and have such close contact to the founder and creator of Hizaya. So Patrice, if you're listening, here's our final feedback. First of all, we think it would be better if the case were just a little bigger. If it were a little wider, for instance, there would be more breathing room for the GPUs and the case would fit triple 140mm fans instead of 120 for intake and exhaust. Also, the motherboard chamber would have room for at least 120mm fans on the bottom and the rear, which would have benefited the CPU temperatures a lot. And of course, as mentioned, we would also seal off the chamber so no hot air can be exchanged from one side to the other. If you ask us, it would just be better to have the front and bottom be intake for both chambers and the top and the rear exhaust. A little traditional, we know, but it just works. Luckily, Patrice has already spoiled that there is a bigger version on the way, and he's definitely going to listen to our feedback. Second, we think that there is just a little too much focus on the design. Some things feel a little form over function. For instance, a lot could be improved just by adding some more perforation, especially where the radiator is located in the side panel, so here. If this had perforation in the side panel, that would provide a lot of fresh air to the radiator directly. And then it could be exhausted out the front, for instance. And also here for the intake for the GPU chamber, because the only perforation they have is here on the side, these holes. Lastly, we would exclude the fans and just let the customer decide which fan to use. Maybe that frees up some budget for a more extensive front I/O. Shout out to Patrice, it's been a fun experience, and he even brought the case to us in person all the way from Paris. Share your thoughts on this case and the build in the comments below. Please like and subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I did it in the English. Did you see that? Did you hear that? Bye.